Hello, NFT land. I'm Creatorius Rex, and we're here once again with TWINN this week in NFT news. Today is January 27th, and so we're going to be breaking down the latest news. And with me, as always, is my good pal, Scott Leach. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
All right, man. We're going to have some fun today. We're not going to preamble too much because we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about platforms, a little bit of controversy maybe about platforms. Projects, because there's some news. There's always news in projects. There seems to be a lot today. I had to cut out some things to even get through today. Brands and NFT lands. We do that every week. We've got two stories for you there. And we're going to do what's in your bag. We haven't done a collection talk in a while.
No.
You and I have both bought a few recently. I'm sort of not buying right now, but every once in a while, over the last 2 weeks, I have. And since we haven't talked about this in a couple of weeks, I actually have a few things to throw down. And I know you've been active once again.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, buy the dip.
That's right.
and right now we have sort of the fake dip because the prices are up, but ETH is down compared to fiat. So still seems like a dip.
Yeah. I haven't done the math to see if it actually equals out to what it was, but I've been more active recently.
That's right. Well, I was looking at Adidas into the metaverse. So the tokens they rolled out a couple weeks ago, and I'd said right along. So I bought two. I sold one to cover the cost of the two that I bought. Made like a minor amount on that. Really just covered gas, which was fine because then I just had one free and clear, which was really the plan.
Sure.
But then I was like, I don't really want the close, so I'll just sell it if it gets to a little over 1 ETH or 1 ETH. And of course it did. But it did at a much lower ETH number. Now, I'm okay with that because I think ETH's going to go back up.
Sure.
But then my other concern was that Adidas would use this token as an entry point to other things they're doing, which they've just done. We talked about it last week with Prada. I submitted to be part of the mosaic. I hope I get selected. I know a bunch of other Adidas people didn't even know, or Adidas token holders didn't even know it was there. So I figured my odds went up from 5% to probably 15% or something like that. So I'm hoping to be part of the giant mosaic that they're putting together with Prada. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's happening more and more, right? These NFTs that airdrop you something or give you access later, and it's factored into a lot of my thinking about which projects to hold on to or to get into, for that matter.
Collabs are big. I mean, I think everybody's really looking at these. If you've got a big brand name like Adidas, for those of you in Europe and everywhere else in the world outside of the US, I think. If you got a big brand like that, it's there are going to be some action. So one of the things I had thought about was the first apparel drop is going to be in March. I figure it'll run up. I don't know if it'll get much higher than it is today, but should maintain height because some people are going to want the actual physical item. I was thinking about selling one and then buying back after the drop, because what they're doing is they're reissuing some new NFTs, which are going to be a different color. So that'll be for the second apparel item. I could just get one of those and I'd still get the access because I assume it's going to go down in value once one of the utilities is taken off the table.
Yeah, there's all these questions, I think, with some of these early projects that we're still waiting to figure out, like some of the utility that's promised in the language, but doesn't necessarily have a smart contract wrapped around it. VCon and VFriends, for example, like will you get another token that represents that you could redeem specific utility things from? It's interesting because then users, depending on if you like that NFT for other reasons, but you don't need the whatever, the merch, the shoes or jumpsuit or whatever you have, will you get a redemption NFT of that you can sell?
And that's what I would do. I would keep it if I could basically just sell off the utility. I think VCon or VFriends is the most innovative in this part so far. Just like so many things, people look at Gary, and so he's sort of I wouldn't call him necessarily a polarizing figure, but he's got that celebrity edge to him. So people don't treat him the same way as they do other projects. But like you just look at it, like so much innovation coming out of their group. So just so people don't, in case you don't know, if you own a VFriends NFT, you get VCon tickets for the next 3 years. It's 3 days. They're going to give you one NFT for each day of the show. You could sell those off individually. You could give them to friends. You don't have to surrender your NFT so someone else can get in, or just sell it off. So I think it's a really clever idea. I assume there will be some, maybe not, but I assume there'll be some affordance for people who own Fly Fish Club to do something similar.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 times a year they can pull something out to give to a friend. Okay, so geez, we got tied down with Gary Vee again. Let's not do that anymore. People are sick of Gary Vee. Like, people are probably really happy about Gary Vee. Mostly, Mikhail Stanislavic just told me from freebies he's gotten from VFriends, he's already made back all of what he spent on VFriends and more. I know you're probably getting close to that, though. You spent a lot more, so you would have to get a lot more things.
Yeah, it's been good so far. Our second, actually, I think I find out tomorrow the details on the next gift goat gift.
I know that, and he's fallen behind. He's got a bunch more to put in your hands. Did you sell that Danny Cole piece, or did you?
No, I have it. I have it hanging up.
Oh, you have it hanging up?
Yeah, it's hanging on my wall.
What about the NFT though?
I have the NFT and I have the physical print I got for.
Is that a 1 of 1?
No, there's 555 of them.
Okay, so it's a single edition, 555.
And it's a print, a signed print by him and Gary.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, but
it's sweet.
What's the NFT trading at now?
I think it's 2.5 or
so
almost 3.
So it's actually up quite a bit from when you dropped it, because ETH was higher then. So it's maybe even half.
Yeah.
Certainly down like 30%.
Let's see. Here.
Is that an Atom Bomb shirt or sweatshirt you have in the back?
Yeah, that's a Bored Apes Atom Bomb collab.
That's the
sweatshirt that they did early on.
It's so funny how the new brands, you can just recognize them right off the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into other stories. You can get back if you want to answer that question at some point. Number one, let's talk money. I want to talk about the Sandbox and Brinc. So Brinc's, a lot of people know, raised a big nut in July. They run accelerators across a lot of industries. They were starting to focus on Web3. They did another, if I recall correctly, 130 million round in December. Lead investor was Animoca Brands, also known as the lead investor and I believe majority shareholder of the Sandbox. And just this week, we found out that they're running, I don't know if this is the old Web3 accelerator or this is like a new one, or they just changed the Web3 one to this, but they're looking for 100 startups, $50 million. And it's really focused around people using the Sandbox for these new projects. Did you take a look at this? If so, what'd you think?
I haven't looked closely at it, but they did. So they did a similar, they've done a lot of this over the last year of, game jams and things like that. I love this stuff because it gets people, the rewards are good. And I think there's a real opportunity here because for as many people are buying land in the Sandbox and talking about it, the actual folks I've seen building games, that audience is still relatively small. So there's real opportunity here to get some of this stuff. I think it's a smart move by them to get people building and doing interesting stuff and offering decent rewards for it.
The $250,000 seems like it's really good because basically some working capital, pay for a developer or two on the team, make some progress. The sand tokens and land grants probably significant value, depending on how much land you get and how many tokens you get, and just acceleration in that space. So I also think that if you look at the people who are associated with Brinc and their Web3 initiatives, I mean, there are top collectors, there's top companies associated with it. It's something that I believe that the connections are more valuable than the money.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's a real opportunity right now that I think we've talked about a little bit, but one of the benefits of being in this space at all right now is the people you meet. And if you're building stuff, especially whether you're an artist creating art or whether you're a dev, this I like, because if you've not looked at, I haven't looked closely enough to know exactly what the criteria is for this, but if they're talking about building experiences in the sandbox using the sandbox builder, it's not difficult to learn. Like, even if you're not a developer, it's a sort of WYSIWYG interface. So you can build quite a bit without knowing how to code. So if you're a creative person, there's a lot you can do in here.
Yes.
Like, this is really worth checking out, regardless of, I'd recommend it.
I bought
it's fun just to play in here.
I bought my first NFT in the sandbox. I was a little late to get in on the land side, and it seems a little pricey at the moment, but I did buy an owl. It was pretty inexpensive with my sandbox. So I think that's really interesting. Sandbox seems to have the most momentum of the Web3 native metaverse spaces. This raised a significant amount of money. Animoca, we talked about them last week, is this $5.5 billion valuation. They're in 150 different projects. I think this is good. The one thing I caution people to say is $50 million is nothing. It's not a significant amount, particularly when they're talking about 100 startups. So you would think that's 500,000 a piece. With the 250,000, maybe they could do a little bit of follow on, but with any of these venture funds, usually what you're looking at, particularly seed, is you're looking to have something like 3x the amount that you invest initially. You want at least 2x and sometimes 3x in reserve, so that you can actually participate in subsequent rounds to help keep the funding going as they're showing progress. So the one thing that I would caution people who go into this is you need to be thinking about where you're going to get your next money from. If you take this grant, because there's not necessarily going to be a lot available, at least in this fund. They might do another fund, which would be a second round one, which they could exercise maybe pro rata rights. But in any event, 50 million is a modest, it's not a small seed fund, but it's a modest seed fund. And I think it's just going to get them started. And I'll be to see how long it takes them to get the 100 under funding.
Yeah, I mean, this amount, it makes it feels to me like this can mean small teams. It doesn't necessarily need to be a giant or a giant startup, a larger startup. This could be, a smaller group, but or a startup that's already got some cash and they're using this just to fund a specific project in the sandbox. But I definitely think it's worth, if you're interested in anything NFT related or metaverse related, you should definitely be looking at the sandbox. And it's a blast to play with their builder.
I haven't tried their builder, so I think I'll go in and do that. We actually have been looking at, I won't go into any detail on this, but we've looking at a metaverse application for something that I'm working on. You and I can talk about this offline. And the intent was actually to use a different set of tools. In part because our thinking is we want to offer things to people beyond us, and to get any type of scale in the sandbox is cost prohibitive unless you've got a big bankroll right now. But this is making me rethink that, or maybe we do a hybrid strategy. So I'll be interested in your feedback when we talk about that offline. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they give you something else, but if you get, okay, so receive up 250, and then so you're getting half. It sounds like you'll get half of the stuff in sand and land grants. So
maybe. Yeah, it would obviously the land grants, even though they're pricey right now, are not that pricey to like. You could get a lot of land for 250,000. I'm not even sure.
Yes.
There's really
I think it's 3.5 a parcel.
Yeah.
Right now.
So I think maybe you get a parcel or two. But I assume
although vicinity to larger areas are more expensive. So if you wanted to be next to Snoop Dogg's thing, it's going to cost you.
Or Warner Music, which we'll talk about. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go into the next segment. We're going to talk about platforms, and we're going to start with a controversy. I was going to start with another controversy from OpenSea, but that seems less important to me at the moment. This morning, just a few hours ago, might be yesterday by the time you guys watch this, but it doesn't really matter. January 27th, To address feedback we received about our creator tools, we've updated our collection storefront contract limits to only support the creation of up to 5 collections and 50 items per collection. Okay, this is insane. This is about as artist unfriendly as I can imagine. So just to give people background here, you can basically create your own storefront. You know, it's as if it's the Shopify version of an artist marketplace on OpenSea. Now, if you've just been collecting PFPs, the profile photo projects, most of those are creating their own contract. They're bringing it into Sandbox or into OpenSea, and the only thing they're doing at OpenSea is really just executing the secondary on that project. But a lot of independent artists, a lot of smaller shops are actually just using the standard off-the-shelf contracts provided by OpenSea in this storefront. So I think I know why they're trying to do this, but this is kind of insane because what they're doing is they're really limiting the smaller projects from being able to use this low friction way to get on the blockchain using OpenSea. And I saw immediately after this went up, because I saw this within maybe 10 minutes of it going up, people were saying, well, wait a second. I'm minting once a day for 100 days. Yesterday was 99 days. Today I'm locked out. I can't do 100. Someone else was doing 365 days. They're stuck at 140. There's so many unintended consequences here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is weird to me. I want to hear your rationale behind it. I don't know if this is to a throughput issue or something, or if this is part of me wonders if it's in part security related, because you have this thing that happens every time a project launches where someone copies it and changes one letter of the project name. This might make that a little more obvious, but not much. Someone could still create a 50 item. It's not clear to me what's going on here.
If you're bringing your own contract in and you've got more than 50 items, let's say you've got 10,000, that's a pretty popular number. It would be very hard for someone to create a copycat up there and start to siphon ETH away from unsuspecting collectors. They have not said officially why this is. Some people are complaining also, like, tell us why you're doing this. We really want to understand it. I'd actually suggested them a response right away. I'm like, hey, wait a second. It seems like there's a lot of unintended consequences, very anti-artist. Why don't we scenario plan this with the community about what you're trying to accomplish and other ways to do this? I'm hoping they reverse this. It is. Yeah.
Is this part of the, can you do this? Because I know at one point, weren't they offering some sort of gasless minting? I wonder if this is a cost thing where a bunch of people are minting and they're just.
It could be.
They just don't want to.
Yes.
Bear that burden.
Potential item. Yep. That's possible.
There should be my take is if there's a good reason for this, then is there also the ability to allow someone to do a larger thing if they can get verified somehow, or if they can,
the answer right now is no. It's a blanket policy. And it went into effect. I mean, it wasn't like this is coming tomorrow or next week. They just announced it as it went live, which really frustrated a lot of people.
It looks rare if you're watching. There's a real opportunity right here.
Looks rare. They've got to start moving a little faster. We don't need to go too deep on this, but this is a bit of an issue that so many collectors are there that we have critical mass in this one marketplace, and they're doing something like this. It looks like they care about the big projects, which I understand why they might, because that's economically they're going to make a lot more off of those than the one-of-one small range editions. But this seems like a big mistake to me.
Yeah, it just seems like we need to know why. Here's something I've observed in this whole space right now is it's the tension between the philosophy of decentralization and the notion of private corporations or entities making rule sets. When people get into this and start thinking it's all about decentralization, and then someone makes a move like this, I think it rubs people especially
Yeah,
wrong way.
I think that's true. Although, I mean, there's plenty of people who are on Solana and other places where,
Sure.
centralization is sort of baked in, despite maybe the protestations of some of the founders. I,
Yeah.
I would say that the thing that I just find so interesting about it is we talk about this democratization of the art world and the access, and OpenSea, has been a champion of that. Unlike some of the other players, like Super Rare is not doing that. Like, you can't get in unless you've got some credentials already.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, Nifty
Yeah.
Gateway,
A lot of invite only. Yeah.
right? So, like, we've seen these things, even Art Blocks, right? Which I think has done a great service for the industry. You've got Playground, so anybody can do that. But for the curated, there's a long waiting list to get in there. And so that becomes rarefied air. So then the question is, where's the place for the people? And OpenSea seemed like that was going to be it. Obviously you've got Rarible as another option. I think they don't have the critical mass. It's a little harder to navigate that. If you're doing pure art, particularly if you're doing small collections, Foundation is I think a really good option for folks, but again, doesn't have the traffic. So I think
Foundation, I think don't you still need to be invited by another artist?
Yeah,
that's how I got mine. I got an invite from an artist. You couldn't just join, but they may have changed that, or it may just be easier to pick one up.
There's some gating process. I don't know what it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah, it's I wish they would give more, and maybe they have, and I just haven't looked at it. I'm being reactionary, but I wish they'd give more explanation. And I think there's other things they have big problems with that they need to resolve too, like the thing we just talked about. Why is it that all these other projects are able to pop up immediately and
ahead of it, like Niftorian? You basically, you've got a bunch of people doing different things on a project. There's so many things to do. I mean, like, set up the website for the minting, set up the OpenSea secondary, all these different types of things. And OpenSea, you've got an account and then you have a collection. And we had the account, but hadn't created the collection yet because we were going to do that when we dropped. Someone anticipated when we were going to do the mint. They snagged the actual URL /Niftorian. And so, and they only had, they had like 2 of each up there. So they had like 28 up lists, but they sold a few. Pretty quickly. It wasn't like they didn't even sell out. And, thankfully, OpenSea was very responsive. We did a takedown on them. And so that was helpful. But yes, scammers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And it is bad. It's a bad look for the industry. It is a particularly bad look for OpenSea because there's someone that people can point fingers at. So I understand why they would want to do that. I think, just offering people verification process ahead of time, like a prospective one. And then if you haven't been verified yet, but you still want to go live, you do your own risk, or if they don't verify you, you can still come on, again, at your own risk, or you can use another platform. I think there's other ways you could address the issue as opposed to, which I think is just negative for artists, for independent artists.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so another thing on OpenSea that we should talk about, which I thought was going to be the thing we would talk about, is this issue of open listings, which means they're listings for an NFT that are not closed. Okay. So I believe I'm correct in saying the manifestation of this can be pretty terrible for folks. So the first thing is, when you're on OpenSea, you list an item. People can then buy against that item. If you change the listing, it doesn't close the previous listing. So if you basically raise the price to 2 ETH, and you had it at 0.5 ETH or something like that, it doesn't actually close the 0.5 ETH. And it's not clear to me how it negotiates that, other than if you close the 2 ETH, because I think it does look at the most recent, the 0.5 ETH would then be active. The other thing that happens is so that's just if you maintain it in your wallet. If you transition it to another wallet and don't close the listing, the listing is still active. So if you bring it back to the first wallet, the listing is active. And so they've had these they've had these issues where someone will move it from another wallet, or they'll buy something that it immediately sells because they have this open listing, which tries to do a match with it. And there's bots all over OpenSea, just looking for these price disparities that pop up from time to time. There was somebody on Twitter not too long ago. This is not an OpenSea issue. This is a fact issue, who was listing something. I think he wanted to list it for 1.5, but he typed in 0.15, hit, and you immediately saw it was a problem. It was running on the blockchain. He came in, changed it. By the time he changed it, another block had already closed and it had been sold for 0.15. So there's only a bot could have found that. Like a human wouldn't have been able to do that. But this is a different thing, and people are reticent to close out listings because you have to pay gas again to do that. Also, I think many people just thought that when you do a new listing, the old listing automatically closes out. But because of the way OpenSea interacts with the blockchain, it has to be a separate record. You're not doing two records at once.
Yeah, I didn't realize that if you upped the price, it still kept the old listing. That is news to me. I thought it was just that if you move it to another wallet, it retains it.
I think it could be the same if you lower the price as well.
Sure.
But then you cancel that lower price listing. Let's say things pump, and that. But then your higher one is still active.
Got it.
And a lot of people don't recognize this. So okay, do your own research, self-sovereignty, all these types of things.
Yeah.
But this is an issue, and in this one, to OpenSea's credit, they're trying to do some education on this, and they're thinking through options. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's scary.
Let's move on. Our other platform story, Etherscan is offering chat messaging to other wallets anonymously. So you don't actually have to know who they are. You can send these messages. I haven't been able to figure out how to get it to work yet. I think I'm not accepted to the beta. I'm trying to get into it. But I've
been waiting for someone to do this. This seemed like such a no-brainer to have a solution here. This is an interesting way to do it. I'm curious how it will go.
So I was just having a conversation with Colin Goldberg. Some people might know him from Techspressionism, sort of the leader of that. What would we call it? A movement, an idea. But he has sold a few things on, I think all in Foundation, but maybe somewhere else. Doesn't really matter. They're sold. Yeah. And he would like to give the collectors an option to potentially do something else, to buy the original if it's a physical, but he has no way to contact them. And many of them, he says, won't reach out to them.
Yeah.
His view is he thinks that's because they want to maintain anonymity. I think it's because most of them just don't really think of it. They want the piece. If they really, a small percentage of people are going to reach out to the artist, directly. But this would seem like a perfect solution for artists, for anybody looking to potentially purchase, because there's some things that are purchased and they just sit in wallets, and the person might be open to selling it, but they've never got around to listing it, or they didn't want to list it for whatever reason. But someone might come in with a really nice offer and just do a private transaction.
Yeah. I mean, or the scenario we were talking about earlier, if the project is going to do an airdrop because something changed on their roadmap and you haven't been to the Discord in 6 months and you forgot about it and you're going to miss this opportunity. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while as well, and thought the way I kept visualizing it from an interface perspective was, if a NFT I own or project I own has a message from the creator of that project, it would show up someplace. I could go find it. It wouldn't spam me, but I could go seek it out.
It's perfect, right? So you go in, you can look at your wallet, just have like a little red dot in the corner if you've got some messages. Now, there's going to be spam.
Sure.
I don't think there's any question about that. But it seems like the logical place. And wow, we have a Web3 native communication mechanism that's in context, as opposed to just always relying on Discord, which can be really impossible to utilize for some projects, particularly the really large ones, because you have to turn off notifications to have any sanity at all.
Yeah. Yeah, this is neat. I think there's lots of questions around, the spam and how noisy it gets, but I think there are lots of opportunities here to make this not that way. Even if a project just had a bulletin board, I think we mentioned this before, like a one area that can hold 140 texts at any time and our characters, and I can go and see
contract.
Yeah, just somewhere where I can see if there's an update from the creator, like something's been updated, I can go check it out. I mean, there's ways to do that, but having a kind of universal spot or having some format that everyone adopts would be nice. I like this. I'm curious to see what happens. And I'm also cautious because I know that there's a huge opportunity for phishing scams and all sorts of other things here.
Talking about a different feature, and I think it's both and. So you're talking about a one-to-many, basically a billboard or bulletin board feature, whereas this is a DM feature.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about, I think that's probably more necessary than the one-to-one.
Yeah, my take was that was sort of the MVP approach before full-blown messaging. You just give the creator of the project the ability to broadcast a message, and it prevents a kind of hopefully it's not as susceptible to scams, although obviously someone could hijack that account and broadcast something. But
so wouldn't we have to have a policy change on any of the blockchains in order to have this type of?
So if it wasn't on the blockchain, if a third party came and created a site where you could do this, where you connect your project and verify that you're the owner of the project, and then you could go to that spot.
So it'd be like Etherscan, but
yeah, exactly. It doesn't necessarily have to be built into the contract itself, but
Etherscan, is sort of like that. It is a third party.
Yeah, this sounds like a neat solution.
Yeah, I like this idea. I bet you could do it in the contract. I bet you could actually create a section of the contract where you could just change text.
It seems like it. And even because then even in OpenSea, if you went to the properties area and just saw like, well, here's the latest message from the creator and it's timestamped or something. Yeah.
Just like a README thing. It's a really good idea. And it could be as simple as 140 characters. You say like, go to this, news, go to this thing. Now, the nice thing about that wouldn't necessarily do any type of notifications. Like the DM aspect clearly is going to have a notification feature. So that's nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Both enthusiastic about this, right? 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the next thing I want to talk about is projects. We talk about projects just about every week here. And the question for you, have you been playing Apes versus Mutants, or as I like to call it, Mutants versus Apes?
I downloaded and started it, but I haven't spent a lot of time with it yet.
Okay.
So haven't gone super deep. I've heard lots of fun things about it. I wanted to spend some time with it to see. I'm really curious how Apple is dealing with this, because I know this is getting into this part of their crazy terms. And I know these guys were blocked for a while and now they're not. So
all of the blockchain connectivity happens before you download, or well, I guess you could download it, but like right now it did do this way. Now, did you sign up? Did you pre-reg for it?
I signed up. Yeah, I did all that.
If you logged in?
I've logged in.
So you have something different than me, because I was like the 3 days I wasn't paying attention was when they did this. I was on the first one, but then they rug pulled that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And they say Apple rug pulled it. They didn't rug pull it.
Yeah.
But this one I just happened to be like not available and not on Discord for a couple of days, wrong days. But I've been playing it anyway because anyone can play it. I think it's kind of fun. It's not the best I've ever played, but I like it. The concept seems really good to me, and I'm only a few levels into it, so maybe it gets amazing. What are your thoughts?
I haven't. I haven't played enough to even have anything yet. I got to look at this. I'm frustrated that Apple and Google. I think they just have to get on board with this. I feel like there's so much opportunity in terms of the connectivity, and I shouldn't say much until I play more, but I don't know.
Well,
I know Apple wants their piece of the pie, but
well, this could be a desktop game. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could do.
totally, yeah.
I think it was smart to do it as a mobile game. It was smart to partner with Animoca to try to get this thing together. I guess there's two things that come up to me. So first of all, this is fun, and it is like it is another aspect of community connection. It seems to be quite a bit different than what we've been seeing from ape community so far. So that's like the first thing I think. I'm trying to think like, should this be a gaming community? And maybe yes, I don't know, but like, it didn't seem like an obvious extension to me other than to say, oh yeah, that's cool. They're doing something else, another way for people to connect.
Yeah. I think I mean, my read on a lot of this stuff is that it's all new. So they're seeing what's going to work and what. When Bored Apes launched and they talk about this game, like there wasn't a lot of PFP projects out, right? I mean, obviously CryptoPunks and a few other things, but not to the scope and scale now. And the utility use cases were pretty narrow. So I think they put some stuff on their roadmap because maybe they thought that might be what resonated with folks. And maybe it will become more gaming related, but it feels like it's sort of something else now.
Yeah, the community.
I don't know.
I don't know that like, I don't want to say it's beyond that because it seems like gaming is not like a legitimate end goal, because it certainly is. And maybe you need to have a portfolio because it's a broad community. I think, what are there? Like, there's over 20,000 or no, over 17,000 people, I think now in the project, like 17,000 wallets, I should say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people, they might want different things. But yes, it does feel different. It feels like actually it feels more like a celebrity project at this point, which I'd say maybe we'll leave that for another week.
The neat thing about this that I think is the huge potential here is that with blockchain, with this technology, they could have something in here later. So even if this game is, if they did a treasure hunt at one point that crossed all these different forms of IP they've created, where you have to find something in the game or reach a certain level to earn an NFT that gets you access to some other thing. Like there's lots of neat.
You remember
Ingress? What's that?
Remember Ingress? The precursor to Pokemon Go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think something like that could be
game would make total sense to me for BAYC. Right? Because like you're out and about, some sort of collaboration. It could be tied to the club status.
What I would listen to this idea. If a dev's out there, you can have this. I think would be awesome. A mixed reality app where you go out with your mobile device and you take pictures when you're traveling. You can virtually tag areas with your Bored Ape.
Oh yeah.
And then anyone can hold up the phone and find apes that other people have graffitied around.
You could have battles to be the mayor of that location.
Yeah, you can have battles. You could do you could use metaverse. What's the project? Someone else from Rally was on this. It's a metaverse project that just takes real places and sells them when you go to Times Square, like something like that, where you could say, okay, here's this area. I now earned it because I put my ape here or whatever. I think there's a neat, could be a really cool, like
Foursquare
tagging.
I guess Swarm is
but being able to look through the device and see these different apes, like up on a building or something, could be sweet.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
It needs to be done.
Someone build that.
Well, you would think, and the apes would be the ones probably that community would be the one to do it, you would think. But, okay.
Yeah, I was in Austin, not this past weekend, and saw some Bored Apes up graffitied on a train car.
Really?
Yeah, it was cool.
Why were you in Austin?
I was good for a bachelor party. And I also got stopped in the airport. I was wearing a Mutant Ape t-shirt, and someone came up to me and was like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" I said, "How do I get into NFTs?"
Oh, geez. So he knew them because
he knew the thing.
Shirt with just the mutant, or was it this?
Yeah, just the Mutant Ape, and then on the back it says MAYC and that drippy. Yeah.
Wow, he didn't know NFTs, but he knew the logo.
Yeah, he knew he'd been dabbling in it and knew enough, but he didn't know where to start. And it's like that huge question of like, well, Yeah, there's no.
I thought you were going to
no,
tell me some degens there. Like what I would expect that Austin, New York, San Francisco, LA would be a good place to find degens who would definitely know.
Yeah,
But that's
I saw
interesting.
a bunch of. Yeah, I noticed I was getting a bunch of looks at certain points, and I figured that was why. And then I think there was a bunch of stickers around and the Bored Apes graffiti, and it was a cool. I shouldn't say graffiti, street art, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They worked great. That was awesome.
Yeah, look at Scott Leach flexing in the airport.
Yeah, it was funny. I don't ever go out in public. So I put this t-shirt on. I totally forgot that I had it. And when this person came up to me, I was like, what? How? And I realized, oh, that's it.
Well, let's stay with the Apes. This is our other project update.
Cool.
Jimmy Fallon, Paris Hilton, I think it was 2 nights ago. Maybe it was one night. Paris Hilton was on. She aped in recently. You can see it's that the ape on the left. If you're watching this in the picture, he's got the red fur. And Jimmy has his own, which came out. I think it was December. He revealed that, and with the little sailor's hat on. And so there's this faux controversy. And I had an 8-part Twitter thread that I was just about to post last night, and my Twitter crashed last night. So I'm like, I wasn't going to rewrite it, but really interesting faux controversy. So they say, Jimmy Fallon may have violated NBC ethics rules by doing something that would profit him personally.
I.e. not profit NBC.
Well, yeah, but it's like NBC is like, no, this is fine. Like,
okay, good.
Our stars are like, they promote their other projects all the time. That's sort of understood. And someone in the comments immediately said, if he bought a 1965 Shelby and he showed himself driving around in it, they wouldn't think anything of it, right? Yeah. It's just because it's NFTs. And I think that's the point, right? That would be viewed as content, where this is viewed as like a show. And it didn't come. I mean, it sort of came across as a shill or a flex or something, but it was a point of connection between him and the guest. So in that way, it's kind of organic. They were, they did both pump MoonPay again, which again is sort of maybe that's questionable, but these fake controversies are ridiculous.
I was like, it's a talk show, and this is a culturally relevant subject. Like,
well, so it's the funny thing. It's like I always just try to tell people. I've seen this time and time again with new technologies. I've been doing this since the 90s. I know you've been around the block more than once. When somebody sees something that they're uncomfortable with, they don't understand, they feel like other people are unjustly getting rich and they're not, is the bigger issue. They always come up with these cascading set of excuses.
Absolutely.
So last year, the big push was environmental concerns. I'm not even going to take a stand on that. I'm just saying that a lot of people don't care about environmental concerns, but care about other things, or using that to try to disparage the space, whether rightly or wrongly, right? And we've talked about that in the show, so I don't have to get into it. And so that's still out there, but maybe not as much as it was. It's sort of an undercurrent. I'm sure it'll come back up again, which is fine. Like, people can talk about, and some people, like, it's their focus. But what happens in a lot of these situations is people just like grab things and they say, it's not good because of this. They're like, okay, well, what if we solve that problem? Well, it's still not good because of this. Okay, let me solve that problem. Oh yeah, but then there's this. And they don't even know all the issues ahead of time. And so what you basically are getting to right now, there will be some concern, environment, could be copyright. People are worried about, artists are getting taken advantage of. Or it could be this like unethical shilling. And then if you say, no, like you sort of refute that thing, they say, and money laundering. That's supposed to be the mic drop. It's like these people talking about money laundering. They don't even know what money laundering is. They don't know how to manifest itself. It's something they've heard on television before, and they think it's a thing, but they don't understand it, and they don't have any evidence, and they don't understand.
And it's just not the fact that it's easier to do that with real money than it is on the blockchain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People do not know. I should tell you people.
Yeah.
There are people who have tried to be anonymous do illegal activity using cryptocurrencies, using NFTs, who are in prison now because the FBI could see all of the transactions. The fact that it's transparent, I don't really want to help people in their attempts to perform illicit activities, but you know, you're kind of foolish to do it on the blockchain. I'm just saying, because you just left yourself an immutable, transparent paper trail.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This, I mean, it's in fact, not financial advice, just life advice. Like if someone is ever, if a large amount of people are ever bagging on something, it's probably worth looking closely at it because there might be something there. Like this happened with, I remember when Apple announced the iPhone and was going to enter the mobile space, people were losing their, like, Apple, come on, they're going to get their lunch eaten by Verizon and AT&T and BlackBerry and whoever else. And even the internet's the best analog we have. No one knew what the hell the internet was or how it worked, and everyone was terrified of it. No one in their right mind was going to put a credit card on it. It was like all this naysaying. They couldn't see the potential of it. And that's exactly where we're at now. And it's why in the long term, like regardless of what bubbles and dips and winters or bull runs we have, it's happening. Like this is happening. So educate yourself.
Like what I just try to stress to people, I've seen this before. I worked in government 25, 30 years ago. I've worked in tech for many, many years, more than 2 decades. You have to understand that they're not really trying to present an argument based on reason.
Yeah.
They're trying to grab at something to say that this is bad. And if you just use reason to counteract it, you're not going to get anywhere.
No. Because
it's an emotional move on their part. Okay, that's enough. Let's move on to brands and NFT lands. Our most popular segment of the week, Reddit. NFTs coming. Now, this is interesting because we'd heard some things about Reddit doing something with NFTs. Is it going to be more like Coinbase? Yeah, maybe it'll be like Coinbase. Reddit was one of the early spaces along with Telegram before sort of Twitter took over in this space where most of the chat was going on. The chatter was happening. You know, certainly in the crypto space, still very big in terms of currency. It looks like from some things that Nima Auji has been looking at is that the first step might be to replicate what Twitter's done.
This is going to be interesting, I think. Reddit is such a unique place in that it's, you know, every subreddit is its own tiny community with completely different beliefs and values and opinions.
Yes.
And I've seen some like hardcore NFT bashing on Reddit. So it'll be interesting how they choose to roll this out. If it is profiles across the whole site, or if they are thinking about something that's subreddit specific, where a subreddit can somehow adopt this feature. It'll be interesting. I think that could be a good approach, because if the whole group, I don't know, feels like there's always drama over at the Reddit.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one thing that I noticed on this little graphic that Nima put out. There's a hexagon.
Oh, you're sleuthing more than I did. Yeah.
Well, I assume what it's going to be is like a badge, kind of like ABC verified. But it is interesting that it's just maybe I'm sure it's coincidence. It's a hexagon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this happens a lot where we see like design patterns get adopted by multiple companies, and that's how you end up with this kind of icons that represent things. So maybe hexagons are just going to be the shape of NFTs.
I think if Reddit does it, Twitter's already done it. If Reddit does it as well, you're going to be hard pressed to go to the octagon or something else. And the hexagon works well with smaller screens because you only have
I can
fewer corners to deal with.
Stack something in my little shelf back there. my little hexagon shelf in my background.
There you go. I mean, it's really useful, I think, in a lot of ways. We'll have to talk maybe next week or the week after about the, after having lived with the hexagons on Twitter for a week or 2 weeks, what was our thinking? Because my thinking on that is evolving a little bit. But in any event, I think this is interesting. This is a big Web2 brand that's looking to be relevant in the space. I really am interested to see if it'll be embraced. There was clearly big backlash on Twitter. I had a really fun interaction with some folks who were very anti-NFT. In fact, many of them had anti-NFT in their bios, which was really fun. Because one of them's like, "Oh, this thing," and it just showed basically how you can go grab the file by looking at the code, which was fine. And so I just said, "Oh yeah, I got it." And I put theirs up, profile picture. And so he and I were having a little back and forth, which was fun. It was just like, who cares, right? But then all these people, like, they were like owning me, showing me like, and I'm like, bring it on. I would love for my mutant to get more exposure. So put it where, and I was just really, I was playing the troll around the whole thing, which was fun. But the funny thing was, like, I wound up in a thread with Xcopy, and told him basically around the right click and save thing, and it's I fully embraced right click and save. If people don't know, that's one of his famous artworks. And he came back. He's like, "It looks like you're getting bullied by an adolescent girl." I said, "Yeah." Or adolescent female cat or something like that. But like, I was like, "Yes, this is." But on Twitter, everybody's on a level playing field, so it's still bullying.
Yeah, I try and just smile and nod, but I do keep a note where I copy and paste statements so that I can one day have the option to say I told you so.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny. Okay, cool. The other one we really need to talk about is Warner Brothers and the Sandbox. So the Sandbox has done a lot of partnerships. Atari, I think, was one of the very first ones. Most people know about Snoop Dogg. There's been a few others that they've done, but their idea is that in their metaverse land, you have neighborhoods, essentially geographies, I guess, and around those, these become hubs. And then around those, you sort of develop different communities. And so then when people are buying land, they say, "Oh, well, where do I want to be in the zombie area? I want to be in the Adidas area, whatever." So they just did one with Warner. Warner is the second or third. Universal is by far the largest of the big music rights record labels. Warner and Sony, I think Warner's actually third, but they're big. If you want a full catalog of music, you have to have Warner. They've got a lot of famous acts in there, but they're going to do some sort of music-oriented area. They're going to do a drop with land around it. Think about this.
I love it. It's the Sandbox's strategy from the get-go of partnering with people has been super smart. And we hear about the big brands, and that's fantastic. This is a use case where I am way more brand tolerant than some of the other stuff I've talked about on previous shows. But they also they partner with
the record labels. Like, you've got a soft spot.
I got no love for the record labels, and I think they're going to get their lunch eaten in the long run. That I think Web3 is going to finish them off to some degree. But not finish them off completely. They'll always be there, but I think it's going to change a lot of stuff. That Kanye quote earlier this week, which we should talk about at some point. But anyway, they did some partnerships with even small projects early on, and not just small projects, but small projects before they got big and legit.
BAYC was a deal they did when
BAYC was early. The Ghosts creator, I forget his name. It's like a bunch of characters. I love his artwork and mince one at a time stuff. He was on there. There's the bonsai tree project from before Apes, early on, or maybe that was after Apes. It was early.
Play bonsais.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that went in here that I just like that they were partnering with everyone. And it was like, hey, we don't know who's going to win. Come in and we'll give you a plot based on how big your project is and your community, and let's build something together. I love that about their approach. And I think music is a spot that could potentially make the metaverse really work. There's this outstanding question I have. As much as I love the promise and potential of the metaverse, it's sort of like, what the hell do I do in here? And I think music is an experience that works well in spaces where you're not quite sure what else there is to do, whether it's broadcasting music while avatars run around and goof off, or whether it's seeing live stream shows. I think it's just smart, sticky content to get people in. And yeah, I like that they're going after everyone.
Just like you've got music, but you got merch shops, right? Yep. You got collabs. There's a lot of really cool things you can do because NFTs are culture.
Yeah.
And it's a good fit. And music has had a slow start on the blockchain. There's certainly activity. It's just not nearly as much as the visual arts. So maybe this is for it.
Yeah.
Okay, man, we're running long. We spent too much time talking about this.
I know.
All right. So what's in your bag?
I want to talk about. Okay, yeah, go.
I'm going to push a couple of these till next week. Like, Chris Eaton and Anthony Hurd, let's push till next week. Probably Illuminati too. So then the question is, you want to talk about Cryptobats? Or do you want to talk about OxApes? Or do you want to talk about...
I kind of want to talk about that.
Okay, well, let's talk about...
I know it's controversial and we only have
in our bag. I don't think either of us own these. You don't own one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't own one. Okay, so if you're not familiar with these, I'll see if I can find an image. You might recognize them. There might be something just slightly familiar about them. We talked about Bored Ape earlier. I had some pictures up. These are not Bored Ape Yacht Club. These are OxApes trilogy. But people call them 0xapes, OxApes, OxApes. You'll hear lots of different things. I prefer OxApes, but I don't think that's going to be the winning number. These are trading at 0.5. That's quite a bit less than the floor on OpenSea for Bored Ape Yacht Club. So that's like, there's a disparity there. So if anyone's buying this and thinking they're buying Bored Ape, they're certainly not doing their own research. These are actually exact knockoffs, and some of them aren't very good. So look at like this. There's just not that much variety. You look at 3 on this top row that we have in here. They all have the orange shirt. Why is that the low end? I think there's definitely thousands.
Yeah.
Just talked about how many there were, but they're not as many as their Bored Apes. It's a few less. What do you think?
I looked at this and was trying to understand what the heck it was, and I saw some of the, I don't know if it was creators or holders kind of defending the project. I don't get it. I don't understand I cannot imagine an intention behind this that is not
nefarious.
That is good. That is good. Yeah. Like, are you trying to trick people or fleece people? Yeah, I don't.
There was a great room on Twitter Spaces last night. It was way too late for me to be on Twitter Spaces. I was doing a little work, so I turned it on, got sucked in because the title was just so good. OxApes is just a cash grab. Convince me I'm wrong. Now, Twitter Spaces, and this was someone who has got a good amount of followers, but wouldn't be someone you would normally expect to have 750 people in their space.
Yeah.
There were 750 people in there for hours. And they had some people who were defending the project, and mostly people who were not. There were a couple of people who were sort of indifferent, but I thought it was really interesting. A lot of people are talking about this. It appears to be a clear ripoff with no unique utility.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I get, I saw some stuff. Oh, why are you gatekeeping? Like, this is not, it's like, what's the intention here? You're not to me, this isn't doing anything for the space. And that's, I would ask the same open-ended question. Like, what is good about this project and who is it benefiting? You and I talked about it. Like, someone can take action here. I don't know if the BAYC guys probably can, those founders, but if I own an ape and I see one of these up here, can I send a cease and desist? Like, Not to say that that's something I would even want to bother with, but it just doesn't feel like, if you're talented and skilled enough to launch your own project, like launch your own project. Like let's learn something and add to the space and like try and explore and create something that's, people put a lot of effort in finding ways to make money quick. It's a lot easier to just do something you're actually passionate about. I know that sounds ass backwards, but like every time I've tried something on my own, the stuff I was passionate about is the stuff that worked, the stuff that was like, oh, well, I guess people want this product. Maybe I should build it. That never works.
Okay. So if I got the right one here, which I think I do, it's very hard, by the way. It looks like OpenSea is actually suppressing these guys.
Mm-hmm.
You can find them through a link in their Twitter. It says they're on Ethereum, Polygon, and Clayton. I'm not familiar with Clayton. I don't know if you know that chain. And then let me see. Let me go into one of these.
I mean, this is, we talked about earlier, immutable ledger. Like, you're going to be remembered for creating this. Is that the legacy you want to have in this space? And maybe that doesn't mean anything to anyone, but like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't think any of them are known. I think they're all anonymous.
Yeah, but even then you have this wallet, right? So if suddenly it moves a bunch of ETH to another wallet, I don't know. Maybe, and like the other open-ended question, if the founders have a really good reason for this, I would love to be persuaded as to what's good about this, but it just doesn't seem to do anything for the space.
Okay.
I'd almost be more satisfied if they said it is a cash grab. We want to get rich and we think we can do it. I'd almost respect that answer more than saying like, oh, we're just having a good time. Like, be legit. If you're robbing people, just say it. Like, or not robbing. If you're trying to hustle them with a knockoff and people are fine with that, okay.
Yep, absolutely. Well, it says on here, OxApes is not affiliated with BAYC from Yuga Labs. Of course, that's below the fold. If anybody uses OpenSea a lot, you'll see like a little description at the top, and you only have room for 3 lines. The part of the third line is somewhat grayed out. But then on the 6th line, which would have been, you can't see unless you go and you click on the drop down, that's where it says it's not affiliated. But here's the really, I guess, more interesting thing to me. They have a little description when you click through to the NFTs, and it says OxApes are driving uniqueness through refinement. Different tribe, same bloodline. So refinement, okay, they're saying they're changing some things. Mostly they're changing them just by having a different, like a yellow background always, which is interesting. Different tribe, okay, like they're trying to say it's different. It's not the same, although exact copy of the artwork. Maybe there's some changes, but we can't see much. Same bloodline. What does that mean to you?
It sounds purposely deceptive to me.
As
if it's not, they should explicitly say
something or are involved in this, or there's some, but there's no continuity from what I can tell. So they have 9,800. They have the ability to do, I guess they list the collection at 10,416, I think. So I don't know where the missing apes are. Maybe they have some mint that they've left over that they haven't executed on yet. But this is a pretty significant project. They have, in addition to the mint, their secondary's been 3.3 thousand ETH.
Yeah.
I mean, so that right there, that's $1 million in secondary, give or take. Well, I guess it's less than that now. It's probably 800,000 in secondary.
Yeah.
I don't know what their contract says, but do 5%. So
I mean, I know that like there's a million ape knockoff projects, and those I'm always kind of like, can we get a little more creative? But these are just direct.
Oh, so funny.
And I'm a huge fan of like remix culture and the idea of taking something and iterating it and making derivative work. But the derivative work has to stand on its own and has to say something or do something. And yeah, again, maybe these guys have a really good story behind this as to why they're doing it, but it's not a good look.
No, but I don't think they care. This seems like one that's,
Yeah.
unless somebody like really wants to do this, but like, I don't know. Do you really want to get sued by the people, who are saying you're ripping off the likeness, all these other things? I think they're just going to walk away with their bag of ETH and call it a day.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess. And then, by the way, the controversy obviously makes them more valuable. The fact that they're a history associated with it.
Maybe, or people get shamed for having them. I mean, that might be another thing. Like, is this going to be like,
Okay, got the hexagons right now, right? You can get a hexagon for one of these.
Yeah. But is yellow going to be now the color of like oh, you're a phony because you got yellow? Are people going to get like, not, I don't want to use the word canceled, but are they going to get shit for contributing to that project? Right.
Maybe. I don't think that yellow exists in BAYC. Does it?
No, it doesn't. No.
There is a yellow. I
think that's probably their only case for having like, oh, it's hex color, whatever, as a derivative work, or who knows, maybe the features are slightly different on them, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't, if it's a money grab and they're just trying to like hustle people, like, okay, cool. Have fun with that. I mean,
well, it was funny listening to one or two, really one of the guys on the stage yesterday in Twitter Spaces defend this, saying like, people know, they like, this isn't, it's all very clear. This is not BAYC and things like that. So I
don't know. If you're out there doing this kind of stuff and it's because you need to make money to like, so you can do the thing you want, I would just encourage you to try and jump to doing the things you want. Like, make something.
Again, you're trying to use reason.
Yeah.
Reason isn't.
But
the equation.
I think this is a different case where people that are doing this stuff, I think somewhere, for the most part, they know deep down that it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, but like, I think like, the human superpower is rationalization.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's original with me. Everybody can write it down. I don't think I heard this anywhere. But I do believe that to be the case. And I think someone could come up with this idea and say, you know what? I was just showing the absurdity of the space, or
totally. Yeah.
Stunt. It was performance art. There's all sorts of things they can do. And there'll be a percentage of people who will line up with them. I mean, we see this with funks. If you're familiar with funks, which is crypto punks, but they're fake, so faux punks. And there's some others which are really just knockoffs. Like different than like things like Inverted Ape. And I bought a couple of those just because I thought they were cool. They're wicked cheap. Like they were selling them at like almost nothing. But it was basically they just did a negative. And then they changed the direction. And there was negative. Didn't change the direction, but we're just so in any
my things
are cooler.
Yeah. I would almost be like, look, if you want to create replica apes, like if your rationalization is, I want to create replica apes so people can collect them and not pay that much. Okay. Contact the person that owns that ape, write into the contract that it's going to send them a piece of the action, like make it mutually beneficial so that, I don't know. There's so many ways to explore this.
The motivation there is not to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
so let's end our OxApes. Well, maybe we'll return to this at some point. Looks like I might be frozen there. There we go. I kind of feel like we should say one thing that's in the bag. So why don't you talk about Cryptobats as opposed to what's in other people's bags? So just say one thing about Cryptobats, what you're thinking. I know you aped into the bats.
Yeah, I liked. I'm a Ozzy Osbourne fan just from growing up. It bordered on possibly a brand thing for me, so I was a little bit apprehensive about it. But I actually thought they looked kind of cool, and it just gave me a nostalgic feeling for Black Sabbath and Ozzy, and I like that. But what really sold me on it was this feature where each bat has the ability to bite another blue chip project, of which I think there's 5 that it can do that too, and it will create a new mutant bat or hybrid bat of some sort that's somehow inspired by that project. So this is an example of the derivative thing that is interesting to me. I don't know how this might look, but one of the skins on these bats, the color is Fidenza color. That's the name of it. And it sort of looks like it's inspired by the Fidenza thing. That to me, going back to our previous conversation, is a great example of how to make a nod to another project or make a derivative thing that's inspired by it without just stealing it outright. Anyhow, that excited me about these because I have a bored ape, and I thought it would be fun to have these bite that ape and see what comes out of it. I think Alien Friends was
Alien Friends is in there as well. There's a couple.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if mutants count either. I think they might not.
No, I think it's just BAYC.
Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, yeah. So I think it's clever. The art is interesting enough if you like the pixelated stuff. To me, it's the novelty. Basically taking this idea of a serum and running it across projects.
Yeah.
And because it's Ozzy Osbourne, because what that means, because his history with bats, because what people saw with mutants and all these other things, I think it's really, the timing is excellent. Seems like a creative thing. Other people will try to do it, but they're the first.
Yeah. I like it. I think it's we'll see what happens with it, but so far I dig it. It just seems like a fun project. I like the creativity with it. So I think it's about as close as I can get to the brand stuff right now without
artists. It's going to be different with artists. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
So anything you want to leave people with, parting shots?
No, it's exciting time right now. Despite crypto doing some scary things, I think the fact that NFTs are still pumping and people are still interested in watching, it's exciting. I think there's some opportunity out there.
I don't know what to root for. The ETH pump, because the bags will go down, or keep ETH down so that the bags will be higher. I think I'd like ETH to go up a little bit, I have to say. Okay, Scott Leach. You guys can find Scott Leach on the Twitter at Scott Leach. You can find him haunting over in the Rally network. And everyone should go there. Go to rally.io, sign up, and get some Scott coin. SKOT.
Yeah.
You can get some bot coin too. That's the one that I work on. It's more AI oriented than NFT oriented, but I did sell some NFTs on there, and we converted them to Ethereum. I think I was the first one to do that. Maybe someone did, but the Rally folks think that I was the first one. So I'll take credit for selling something on the side chain and then converting it to a Ethereum based NFT. I'm at Creatorius Rex on the Twitter. Find the stuff that we're writing about on Notorious.com. A lot of the stories we talked about today, we have like more in-depth articles there. That's like a resource for people. We're doing research, data, those types of things. And if you want to check out a really cool project, particularly if you like art and artists, or you are an artist, go to niftorian.com and join our Discord. The NFT Artist Accelerator starts next week. More to come on that. We've got some advisors that we're going to be announcing. We got some really fun things. We've got this kind of slow roll project, but we're gaining momentum under the cover of night. We'll explode into the metaverse. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. See you next week, Scott.
See ya.